Governor Rick Snyder declares a financial emergency in Detroit, and city officials are scrambling to respond. I'm Gary Miles for the Detroit News. Joining me here is Darren Nichols, who's been in the City County Bureau for 10 years and joined the Detroit News in 1993. Darren, tell me the origins of the crisis.
Detroit is a city that's been in decline for the last 50 years or so. You're talking about a city that has that at one point had a population of 1.8 million people and now has less than 700,000 people. You can point to a number of different factors as to why that has occurred. Both black and white population has left over the time, but you can also point to the foreclosure crisis over the last 10 years, as well as the decline in the auto industry as some of the major contributing factors.
And with the declaration of a financial emergency, Darren, what does that mean?
Certainly you're talking about a city that has $14.9 billion in long-term liabilities that it must meet, and as a result, the governor has declared that there is a financial emergency and that the only way to fix it is to appoint an emergency manager for the city of Detroit.
And what's happening now?
What is currently going on is that the Detroit City Council is exploring several options as to how they want to get out of this emergency. There's been some talk about a second consent agreement. This time last year, as you all may recall, the city entered into a consent agreement to fix some of the long-standing financial problems in Detroit, and so they believe, some members of City Council believe, the only way to fix this emergency is to enter into a more enhanced consent agreement. But there, at some points, there hasn't been any willingness from the state to sort of enter into that kind of agreement.
Now, are Mayor Bing and the council on the same page from what we can tell?
At this point, no, they're not on the same page. The mayor has not come out publicly and said that he is going to seek any kind of court action or even to try to appeal this. Some of my sources sort of suggest that the mayor believes that it's sort of a pointless argument to go into court and to appeal this because of the financial emergency that exists in Detroit.
And if the city does appeal, we'll have a hearing on Tuesday. And what would happen after that?
Then the governor makes a decision whether he concurs with his earlier declaration, and then as a result, if he does not believe that, if he believes that if he concurs with his decision and accepts that Detroit is still in a financial emergency, then the city can take other remedies in court.
And what's next for the governor?
He will decide. At this point, he is weighing several candidates for the position, is the way that I understand it to be. I think he's narrowed down his choice on who is going to be the next emergency manager.
And if he appoints one, you know, there's this 18-month period in the law. Is there any suggestion here that Detroit could be fixed that quickly?
That's a very good question. There are some who suggest that you can put Detroit on a roadmap to sort of fixing its problems in an 18-month period. But again, you're talking about $14.9 billion worth of liabilities. Certainly that cannot be fixed totally in 18 months. And so I think some of the discussion has been about putting Detroit on solid footing within 18 months in order to be able to fix its problems, but not necessarily fixing all of its problems in an 18-month period.
And we've seen a little bit of a backlash, Darren, locally and nationally. How big do you think that's getting? You just reported a story about Al Sharpton bringing it up nationally. Tell me what you're seeing.
Yes, we reported this morning that Al Sharpton was on the Tom Joyner Morning Show expressing his frustration with the appointment of an emergency manager, or the potential appointment of an emergency manager in Detroit, talking about how it thwarts sort of the voting rights. That has been the discussion over the last year or so. And so it is sort of gaining some sort of traction, at least nationally. And locally, you're talking about the National Action Network, the NAACP, as well as other community groups who are sort of expressing the same type of frustration, particularly given the the elimination or the voting down of the Public Act 4 last November.
All right. Thanks, Darren. I'm Gary Miles with the Detroit News, and join us next time as we talk to some reporters about the top issues of the day.